Shalom, all praises to Yahweh, Ba'ashem El Shai, Ba'ashem Harakah Kodash, the borners unto the apostles and elders of great millstone and rule well, and Shalom to the hopeful elect. This is Paya Allah, and this is Daniel the 5th chapter. Belshazzar the king made a great feast to a thousand of his lords, and drank wine before the thousand. Belshazzar, whilst he tasted the wine, commanded to bring the golden and silver vessels from his father Nebuchadnezzar, which his father Nebuchadnezzar had taken out of the temple, which was in Jerusalem, Jerusalem. All right, now, in this case, the historians debate whether it was actually his father. They say he was third from the line or second from the line. There's debate about that. All right, but we'll carry on. It says that the king and his princes, his wives, and his concubines might drink therein. Then they brought the golden vessels that were taken out of the temple or the house of the Most High, which was at Jerusalem, and the king and his princes, his wives, and his concubines drank in them. He drank wine and praised the gods of gold and of silver and of brass. No, it's lucky I read it wrong. They drank wine and praised the gods of gold and of silver, of brass, of iron, of wood, and of stone. In the same hour came forth fingers of a man's hand and wrote over against a candlestick upon the plaster of the wall, or plaster of the wall, of the king's palace. And the king saw the part of the hand that wrote. Then the king's countenance was changed, and his thoughts troubled him, so that the joints of his loins were loosed, and his knees smote one against another. All right, so he saw a terrible thing. Right, he saw a image or an actual, Lord presented a hand that wrote upon the wall in the midst of this jovial setting, where the wine is running, good banterful entertainment. They're in celebration. They were in such a good mood that they said, let's bring the golden vessels that belong to the provenance of Judah, all right, or Israel. That's how they felt, all right. But then guess what? At the peak of that, at the peak of the festivities, what happened? You had that hand show up, and it got the king so messed up. They buckled at the knees, and his face dropped, all right, and he almost gave up the ghost basically. Verse 7: the king cried aloud to bring the astrologers, the Chaldeans, and the soothsayers, and the king spake and said to the wise men of Babylon, whosoever shall read this writing and show me the interpretation thereof shall be clothed with scarlet and have a chain of gold about his neck, and shall be the third ruler in the kingdom. All right. Then came in all the king's wise men, but they could not read the writing, nor make known the king the known to the king the interpretation thereof. All right, and we've seen this movie before, because Daniel's done this on many occasions. All right, and by this time he was up in age. It's claimed he was around in the 90s. All right. And was King Belshazzar greatly troubled, and his countenance was changed in him, and his lords were astonished. All right. Now the queen, by reason of the words of the king and his lords, came into the banquet house, and the queen spake and said, O king, live forever. Let not thy thoughts trouble thee, nor let thy countenance be changed. There is a man in thy kingdom in whom is the spirit of the holy gods. In the days of thy father, light and understanding and wisdom, like the wisdom of the gods was found in him, whom the king Nebuchadnezzar, thy father, the king, I say, thy father, made master of the magicians, astrologers, Chaldeans, and soothsayers. All right? And this is it, man. This reminds me of Ecclesiastes 9 chapter about there was a king that delivered a city, and after it was done, he was forgotten. All right? Oh, how quickly they forget the prophets. All right? And the great works that they show. Because Daniel was so prominent in the words that were uttered, but it shows you it's generational. All right? A new generation comes and there's a new thing. All right? And they hold to that. But this shows you that the divinity of Daniel lived, you know, well, in the queen's mind, all right? She recorded, she remembered his great works, and through the spirit for him to come forth and do the same thing he did in the past, all right? Because why? The Heavenly Father is a God of knowledge. He found, as it tells you in 1 Samuel 2 and 5, all right? Or 2 and 3, should I say. And he found out all the ways of understanding and gave it unto his servant Jacob, all right? Baruch 3 and 36. That's why we're known as the formers of all things, all right? But really, you know, I wanted to do a video on that because really to be a former of all things is you received the vision, all right? You basically are a visionary, all right? And that means that, you know, and that's what it is with inventors, engineers, all this type of stuff. They basically envision something in their mind and they work out how to engineer it through their mind. Then they take these things to the new world and they do it. All right? And that's because why? Who put thoughts in man? All right, the Heavenly Father. It tells you that in the book of Sirach, the 17th chapter, that he looketh upon the eye of the mind of a man. All right, something to that effect. But you can read it down because it speaks about when the Lord created man. All right, and he gave, Job tells you that, man, you know, Proverbs tells you that, man's guidance of the Lord. How then shall a man understand his own way? And that's why, ultimately, the secret is revealed unto his servants, the prophets. That's why, yo, you know, you have great inventors, Nikola Tesla, you know, these different people that do great things upon the earth. Many so-called black inventors, Jake, you know. But in all reality, what's the highest level of any form of knowledge? What would it be? It would be that of the prophecy, to know what's going to happen in the future. All right? And that's why Daniel, you know, though he was forgotten, he came back to show where it was. All right? Now, let me read verse 12. For as much as an excellent spirit and knowledge and understanding, interpreting of dreams and showing of hard sentences and dissolving of doubts were found in the same Daniel, whom the king named Belshazzar. Now let Daniel be called, and he will show thee the interpretation. Then was Daniel brought in before the king, and the king spake and said unto Daniel, Art thou that Daniel, which art of the children of the captivity of Judah, whom the king my father brought out of Jewry? I have even heard of thee, that the spirit of the gods is in thee, and that light and understanding and excellent wisdom is found in thee. And now the wise men, the astrologers, have been brought in before me, that they should read this writing and make known unto me the interpretation thereof. But they could not show the interpretation of the thing. And I have heard of thee that thou canst make interpretations and dissolve doubts. Now, if thou canst read the writing and make known to me the interpretation thereof, thou shalt be clothed with scarlet and have a chain of gold about thy neck, and shalt be third ruler in the kingdom. All right? And going off what it said, this would make this man, Belshazzar, the second ruler in the kingdom of Babylon, given that he's offering Daniel to rule in third place. All right? And this even shows you that at some point, that rule that Daniel, along with Mishael, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, Hananiah, Azariah, and Mishael, at some point that power was relinquished from them, all right, and they went into some form of obscurity, all right, whereby they weren't known, all right, because he's why am I saying that? Because he's the queen has told him, yo, there's a man in the kingdom that is of great renown. All right, the four of them, Daniel mainly, just disappeared. At some point, just got pushed to the back after all the great works that they did. All right. So reading on, it says, verse 17. Then Daniel answered and said before the king, let thy gifts be to thyself, give thy rewards to another. Yea, I will read the writing unto the king. All right, had no desire to be ruler over Babylon. He wasn't jumping at a chance. All right, he had a greater service to do in serving of the Heavenly Father. All right, and even so, he knows to what end it is all. All right, that's why he's going to say, yeah, I will read the writing unto the king and make known unto him the interpretation. O thou king, the most high power, Yahweh, gave Nebuchadnezzar thy father a kingdom and majesty and glory and honor. And for the majesty that he gave him, all people, nations, and languages trembled and feared before him, whom he slew, and whom he would set up. Salakia, let me read that again. Verse 19. And for the majesty that he gave him, all people, nations, and majesty and languages trembled and feared before him, whom he slew, and whom he kept alive, and whom he set up, and whom he put down. And when his heart was lifted up, and his mind hardened in pride, he was deposed from his kingly throne, and they took his glory from him. All right, because the Heavenly Father made him an extension of his power right on the left hand side. But then guess what? He bucked up against the Heavenly Father, and that's why he found himself in a sorry state of affairs. All right, as it tells you in the previous chapter, verse 21. And he was driven from the sons of men, and his heart was made like the beasts, and his dwelling was with the wild. Oh, shit. Excuse me. Man, the Lord is powerful, man. You imagine, there's a king that has this great power, is highly dignified in all of the known world. And then one day, it just falls upon him to be made into a beast. And then he went from sitting on a high throne, with a crown upon his head, right, with the opulence of Babylon, the great hanging gardens and all of that good stuff. That one day you just see him in the stables, man, just acting like one of the oxes, man, one of the wild asses. That's some crazy shit. And this happened, for years, mind you. All right. Guy was bugging out. You imagine the kind of councils they would have been having. Those magicians, the wise men of Babylon. It would have been, baffled at what to do. Right? So I'll read from, they fed him. I'll read it again, verse 21. And he was driven from the sons of men, and his heart was made like the beasts, and his dwelling was with the wild asses. They fed him with grass like oxen, and his body was wet with the dew of heaven, till we knew that the Most High power ruled in the kingdom of men. And you see, it took a while for him to get to that point of where he did what? He humbled himself, right? Say you still out there acting like a beast, being stony with a heart of stone, man. Hard-headed against the Heavenly Father, all right? Till we knew the Most High power ruled in the kingdom of men, and that he appointeth over it whomsoever he will, all right? He just got lucky because he is part of the will of the Heavenly Father. And thou, his son, O Belshazzar, has not humbled thine heart, though thou knewest all this. And he was actually, and this is why Belshazzar, it's why Daniel said all of this, yeah? Why? Because he was making him aware, reminding him, all right, and saying, you knew all of these things, all right? You're aware of it. Damn right you knew about his dad acting like a bloody beast for numerous years. I'd imagine he was of some form of age to interpret the things that are going on and feel some kind of a way. Verse 23, but hast lifted up thyself against the Lord of heaven, and they have brought the vessels of his house before thee, and thou and thy lords, thy wives, and thy concubines have drunk wine in them, and thou hast praised the gods of silver and gold, of brass, iron, wood, and stone, which see not, nor hear, nor know, and a power, Yahweh, in whose hand thy breath is, and whose are all thy ways, thou hast not glorified. Yeah, the Heavenly Father does see, the Heavenly Father does hear, and the Heavenly Father does know, all right? Unlike the gods that he worshipped, and he's aware of this as well, all right? Verse 24, then was the part of the hand sent from him, and this writing was written. And this is a writing that was written, many tekel upharsin. This is the interpretation of the thing, many. The Most High have numbered thy kingdom and finished it. Tekel, thou art weighed in the balances and art found wanting. Perez, thy kingdom is divided and given to the Medes and Persians. Then commanded Belshazzar, and they clothed Daniel with scarlet and put a chain of gold about his neck, and made a proclamation concerning him that he should be the third ruler in the kingdom. All right, and mind you, Daniel didn't ask of this, but hey, let another man praise thee. He was being praised. All right, I'm sure they forced it upon him, and this is all through the Spirit. All right, verse 30. In that night was Belshazzar the king of the Chaldeans slain. All right. And Darius the Median took the kingdom, being about 62 years old. All right. So with that, I pray you're edified to the next one. Say shalom.